welcome to part 3 and final webinar of our ongoing series, The Other Side of Study in Canada. This part aims at being a guide to mental well-being and resources available for the students out there in Canada. I'm Sukhdeep Gill. I'm representing Punjabi Chamber of Commerce as Executive Director. Punjabi Chamber of Commerce, we also call PCC, was set up 3 years back at New Jersey by the generous contribution of our Punjabi community, with a vision to unite and enrich the community there. We have strict no religion, no politics policy in place. We have now 15 chapters worldwide. In order to fulfill our vision, there are a number of programs being churned out, such as classifieds, job resume bank, etc. Do take out some time to explore our website, www.punjabichamber.com. Do join us as a member. If you haven't so far, membership is absolutely free of cost. Now, before I hand over to the moderator, let me congratulate our Toronto chapter for putting this all together. Thank you very much. This series has been a journey in itself for every one of us. While this series comes to an end today, but the journey isn't actually. This part 3 series has nudged us, alerted us to adopt a proactive approach towards the whole issue. Hence, we are going to document the series into a small booklet, which shall serve as a beacon for all of us, and we take an action accordingly. Next slide, please. Next slide. Let me introduce our moderator, Ms. Anupama Javik. She's also one of our committee members of Toronto chapter. Thank you so much, Ms. Anu, for putting this all together. We are very grateful to you. Ms. Anupama has non-profit experience which spans over 20 years. Her work has been predominantly working within the settlement sector, youth as well as with survivors of domestic violence. Her passion for giving back continued even after switching careers. Anupama has been on various boards, including ACO, which is also called AIDS Committee of Ottawa, CASSA, ECHS, as well as Sahara Services in BC. She has worked in labor movement for 12 years, working on bringing changes to precarious workers in the property services sector and health sector as well. Currently, she is a member of Toronto chapter, just as I informed. She's also the president of the board of newly formed organization called SUNO, which helps international students cope with mental health, addictions, and human or sex trafficking. She is the CEO of Punjabi Community Health Services Media and is a certified empowerment coach working with women looking to change aspects of their lives. Over to you, Ms. Anupama.
Thank you so much for that introduction. So I'm very happy to have partnered and done this great webinar series with Punjabi Chamber of Commerce. So for the whole Punjabi Chamber of Commerce team, thank you for doing everything on behind the scenes and helping to make this the success that it was. Sukhdeep and the team, Nita, everybody else. So I'll start off by introducing our keynote speaker. Baldev Mutta is the CEO of Punjabi Community Health Services. Baldev has been in the field of social work for the last 45 plus years. He's the founder and CEO of PCHS. PCHS is a health service provider in the Central West and Mississauga, Halton local health integrated network geographic areas. Baldev is an empathetic social worker and a dependable CEO. Baldev is tenacious, working to raise awareness around the issues of substance abuse, mental health, gender inequality, and toxic masculinity, predominantly within the community. He has worked for the last 28 years developing an integrated holistic model to provide accessible and culturally appropriate services to the community. He has received many community awards for his work on equity, community development, and organizational change, including the recent Ally Award at the 4th Annual Pink Attitude Awards Gala. It takes me great pleasure. Baldev Uncle is my mentor, and I've known him for more than half of my life. So it's an honor, Uncle, to have you on this series with us.
Thank you.
So the next panelist that we have is Kamalpreet Kaur. She's a recreation therapist with Schlegel Villages. Kamalpreet holds a diploma in social work from Fleming College and is currently working as a recreation therapist at Schlegel Villages. Kamalpreet is also, she did her placement with PCHS, which is how I got to meet her. And she's actually one of our peer mentors for SUNO. So Kamalpreet, thank you for your time. I know
Thank
you're at
you.
work, so thank you so much for joining in.
Thank you, Anu.
You're welcome. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start. There's about 4 to 5 questions that I'm going to ask both Baldev and Kamalpreet. So I'll start with you, Kamal. The first question that I have was, when did you come to Canada, and what college did you go to? And
So I
when
came
you
to Canada in January 2018, and my college was Fleming College, and it was in Peterborough.
Okay, and when you got to Fleming College, you know, and how you were 18 years old? How old were
I'm
you?
19 actually.
You're 19.
19
You were
around.
okay, so
Yes.
when you came to Canada, how old were you?
I'm 19-year-old when I
You're
came
19.
yeah.
Okay, so you're 19, you came to Fleming College.
Yes.
Did you know what kind of resources were available for you when you got to the college?
Actually, at that time, not too much resources were present because it was basically in the English community, not so we don't have Punjabi community over there. So it's hard to get to the resources. Only the international students help each other to find the resources, and in case if they have any problem, to help them.
Okay, interesting. So, you know, there's like the student center, the international student center, but you relied more on the other international
More
students.
on the other international students who are from the same community, basically the Indian students. We have international student chamber there, but actually mostly the English community, the other people were there, which are not helpful as compared to our Punjabi community. But I think in 2019, when the president was elected, and he was a Punjabi international student.
Oh, that's great. Okay, so you had someone that represented you.
Represented the other international students, basically, because he knows about the experience and everything. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay, great. Thank you. So, Baldev, Uncle, what are some examples that you have seen firsthand that international students have been experiencing around mental health once they've arrived to Canada?
Uh, I think the biggest challenge for everyone arriving in Canada is we come with our preconceived notion that somehow Canada is very beautiful. We will achieve our dreams very quickly. Unfortunately, the reality is a little bit different. It takes time for acculturation.
I agree with Baldev uncle.
Mhm.
So
The reality is quite different.
So so it really doesn't matter whether students come here or whether immigrants come here, and whether they go to Australia, US, or anywhere, it really doesn't matter. The reality, the struggle to settle in a new country is very difficult. It's a challenging aspect to learn new things. The weather is different, the people's behaviors are different, we don't know anyone in a new land. And then the expectations, I mean, students go through a variety of difficult challenges. The way you study back home and the way you study here is different. The professors are different, the homework is different, everything is different. And then you are isolated first time from your family, so you have no one to talk to, so you are strangers. You are quickly forming a bond or a relationship with a stranger who happens to look like you, who are also struggling. So when two people start struggling and bonding, sometimes, if it's a good thing that one is getting resources and then he or she can pass on to the other one, but what if both of them start struggling and they are unable to find resources and seek help? Now we have two people who don't know what to do, but they are both bonding with each other. And that's what happens to many of the people in in uh, um, in the international students community. So one of the challenging aspect is that the need is that the educational institutions, although when we had discussed with them, they were saying we do an orientation. Now imagine if somebody is new to the country, and on the first or second day of school, you give them, let's say, 2 or 3 days worth of orientation, 1 hour this, 1 hour this, 1 hour this. It's not enough to sink in because they have so much to worry about: the school, the rent, the work, even trying to get to know how campuses are, trying to know where the library is, trying to know how they're going to reach home. And some of the students, when they come to Canada in January, it is snow. To walk in snow, to be mentally prepared, to dress up warmly, all those issues take a toll on the mental health of the newcomer. And the studies show, and York University has a very famous study, it was about 10 years ago, it's called the Healthy Immigrant Effect. It has concluded that the health of immigrants is usually much better than the native born Canadians' health when they arrive to Canada. But 5 to 7 years later, their health is worse off. So basically, this research study concluded that we Canadians bring newcomers who are healthy, and in 5 years, we make them sick.
Mm.
So then the question became for the researchers, why is this happening? So they further delved into this research and they came out with the conclusion that two things are the most problematic for newcomers, whether they are international students or immigrants. One was that they face systemic discrimination in terms of adjusting to Canada. Discrimination in housing, discrimination in jobs, discrimination in recognizing their education credentials, discrimination in the way they are treated in par with the other people. And they don't understand this discrimination. They think that there is something wrong with them. So that takes a toll on their health. The second thing is that when we have in our mind an established viewpoint or a worldview that this is how the new country will be, and it doesn't materialize the way, we have a disconnect in our mind. And that disconnect leads to enormous amount of stress. And because we don't have our loved ones or social support to support us, that mental health well-being is the one that does the most damage. We are now living in a heightened stressful environment. Our brain is not functioning well. We are unable to coordinate, concentrate on our studies. We do not get hungry, so either we eat too much or we eat too little. We are unable to sleep, either we sleep too much or we don't sleep at all these things takes a toll on the well-being of a newcomer. And students are more at risk because they don't have the required um, health insurance. They only are covered for some basic kind of a thing. So that brings another toll on them, and then they have to find work so they can have meaningful work, so they can pay the tuition for the next semester. That kind of a thing puts an additional stress on them as well.
Okay, thank you, Uncle. And there's a few things that you talked about, and I think it's important that when you talked about the healthy immigrant effect at York University, there's a lot of research that's been done, international students or just immigrants that are coming here. So I think having those resources available would make a lot of sense, especially we have a lot of participants that are in India watching these webinars. So it'll give people an opportunity to do a little bit more research and find out, here is what you should be doing, preparing yourself before you come here. So thank you for mentioning that, Uncle. So Kamal, I wanted to ask you a question, but before I ask you the question, your experience is very unique. Yeah. And if you feel like sharing it, please, and if you're comfortable sharing it, I think it's important because each and every international student is not the same.
Yeah,
right? You and I have talked about that. Your journey, Savinder's journey, every other student's journey is not going to be the same. So Kamal, if you don't mind talking a little bit about, so you said you went to Fleming College in Peterborough, where our community wasn't there.
Wasn't there. So it's quite a different experience with me, because when I went to the Fleming College, we don't have a lot of international students in our college. And in 2017, September, we had strike, I think teachers strike in Canada. So that's the reason in India, we don't know how to apply and how to research and how to find out the resources you discussed, right? The people who are watching now, they have an opportunity, so came to know that they can research for the resources, right? And in Peterborough, we don't have much resources available. First of all, accommodation problem, because we don't have our community present there. So it's very hard to find the accommodation, especially for the international students, because other community people, they are good, no doubt, doubtlessly they are good, but still it's one concern that we have to face accommodation problem in some small cities, right? So Brampton, it's kind of hub city, so we have a lot of accommodations and we have a lot of our community present, right? So first of all, I faced the problem with the accommodation, and then, but it's all right because we have other international students and who are very supportive. Still now they are very supportive. And then secondly, Uncle shares that education system is quite different. In the same way, we back to home, we don't know about the plagiarism. What is plagiarism? So same thing here, I face the problems like in plagiarism, because we can copy as if we have to do citations, APA citations, and back home we don't know about these things. When we just passed out our high school, maybe in the colleges we came to know, but I don't know about in the high schools, right? So these are different problems which I faced, and otherwise it was a good experience. I came to know about the different things which I cannot know till now. Like we have different people who help us, different communities who help us there. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. And Kamal, so one thing you and I have chatted about, and I think it's important, Uncle talked a little bit about it, was the culturally appropriate services, right? So you said when you were at Fleming College, there wasn't culturally appropriate services.
Yes.
So where did you find out where to get help from?
And as I shared with you, basically international students who were there help us. So culturally, language is the most, what we can say it's the problem here, because we are not able to get services in our language. We have to go through. I know everyone cleared their IELTS test or international language system test, but still it's a problem. So people, they hesitate to share their problems with others because of the language barrier, right? I know it's one thing which we face, but otherwise don't hesitate when you feel comfortable with anyone. I know the person will understand everything by your expressions.
Okay, and I think it's also key, when you got to Fleming College, there wasn't a lot of international
students, yeah.
And so while you were there, I'm assuming that the intake of international students increased
just after September 2017 intake, because they faced the crisis in September 2017, and then they allow a lot of offer letters to different colleges who are far away from the cities. It's hard to survive there, but they, just for their income resource, they offer a lot of letters to the international students. Yes.
And Kamal, if you can share a little bit, so you went to school in Peterborough, and did you live in Peterborough the whole time, or did you commute?
Yeah, I was there for a year, because I have three semesters, and the last semester is my placement. And for the placements, I have a great opportunity to move from the Peterborough. And then, yeah, I lived there for a year, and then I moved to the Brampton for my placements in PCHS.
Got it. Okay, thank you. Okay, so Uncle, the next two questions are for you. So the first question, Uncle, is can you ID some causes and some reasons why there is an increase in mental health and addictions use with international students?
Yes, a couple of things. There are three, four major reasons why there is such an epidemic in the whole world around mental illnesses, and not just the students, but around the whole. Even before COVID, these mental health issues were rising. It wasn't during COVID, and during COVID, things even got scarier. So one of the biggest reason is time management. In the whole kind of world, we are having difficulty managing our time and allocating appropriate time for work, studies, relaxation, and socialization. So we are having difficulty compartmentalizing our life. When international students come to Canada, they leave their families behind. So their families want to talk to them, or they want to talk to their families. So there is a 12-hour time difference between India and Canada. So somehow they have to manage their time. That becomes one bigger issue. The second bigger issue is that the only thing they can compromise, they have to go to classes, they have to go to work. So whatever little time they have, they take it out from their sleep time. So when we are not sleeping properly, that's when problems start to accumulate. So the brain needs to relax. The way brain functions, it's that it is an electromagnetic system which constantly fires like an electric current, like a spark plug in a car or in a motorcycle. That's how our brain functions. So this constant firing is what makes it tired, and it consumes almost more than half of the energy of the body is consumed by our brain alone. So imagine how powerful this organ is. And then the only way it relaxes, or the only way we can calm it down, is when we relax and when we sleep. Now, if we don't sleep enough, the brain is never relaxed. And that's when before we even know it, we start to see initial problems. Lack of sleep means that one, at night time at 2 o'clock, our long-term memory converts everything our short-term memory converts everything into our long-term memory. So if we don't sleep properly, we do not go to deep sleep at 2 o'clock. So the transfer of data from short term into long term memory doesn't take place. And in the morning, we are then again struggling to recollect what exactly happened the day before. So now we have to study harder, but we are not sleeping. So studying harder doesn't mean much if we are not having proper sleep. So that's one bigger thing. The second is that if we have worries, if we are constantly worrying about our job, how we're going to pay rent, where will the money come from, food, travel, and if we are sick, where the money will come for medicine, all those worries occupy a certain part of the brain. It leads to worrying. What does worry do? Worry makes an individual not to able to concentrate on a task that needs to be completed. So because we are talking about international students, the only task they have on their hand is studying. Studying requires concentration. But if our mind is occupied with worrying and we are worried, then we are not able to concentrate. If we are not able to concentrate, they're not going to perform well, and then more worry will come. So it's a vicious cycle that we have that we need to. So one of the things I'm going to recommend to youngster is if they can manage their time better. I am not recommending that they don't socialize, that they don't talk to their family. Yes, they have to do it. Absolutely. You have to work. That's also given. You have to go to school. That's also given. But now, please, somehow you have to figure it out that you get about 8 hours of sleep every day. Now, That's easier said than done when you are struggling to put food on the table, when you're struggling to reach school on time, concentrate, do your homework and assignments, and then work, and then juggle. And you are such at a young age where nobody is there to cook for you and do all these things, right? So from that perspective, that's what happens in the initial stages. So it's second, if we don't eat properly, and if we are constant on the go, and the only way we can say, oh God, I didn't had breakfast, let me what else can I do, so let me eat a nutri bar. So now we are eating a nutri bar and drinking either a glass of milk or a cup of coffee or whatever else do we do. And it's very quickly, we just are so tired and we run to school, we sit in there, and now the nutri bar has higher level of sugar, and and that wears out very quickly. Now you are overly hungry. Now lunchtime you eat a lot because now you have to compensate for breakfast and lunch, and now you're start to fall asleep in the afternoon classes, and you're struggling to stay awake because now your stomach is full of food. And so eating appropriately is also very important for mental health. Sleep is also important for mental health. Exercise is also important for mental health. And then time management, if you can manage your time better, that will be really good. Because I have often struggled that young people are staying up late to chat to their friends, to socialize, because that's the only time they are finding. And as a result, slowly and slowly, they start becoming stressed, and then it starts to then take a toll on their life. And then in order to relax, unfortunately, some other not so good coping mechanisms come in, like for example drinking or getting involved in drugs. Those are the elements, they are predominantly to release stress, but pretty soon they themselves become a problem.
Right. So these are key points, I think, that are needed within the community. And this is more of a conversation before I move on to the next question. This is both for Uncle, for you, and for Kamal. You know, the last webinar that we had, one of the participants had said that it's really important that we talk about the burden and the expectation that family has put on them to send money back, right? So, you know, there's so many layers as to, you know, you mentioned, Uncle, about sleep, exercise, eating right, time management. And then I think on top of that, you know, what a 17, 18, 19-year-old's expectation of someone who, let's say, is in India, who doesn't immigrate here. Or for myself, when I was 17, 18, 19, I didn't have the responsibility of going to school, working, making sure bills are paid, and sending money back to my family. So I think if we can have a conversation about that, because I think there's so many causes as to what's happening with international students around mental health and addictions. But I feel like there's a lot of pressure that's put on these students to send money home, to get PR, to sponsor their families, etc. So if we can have a conversation about that for the next few minutes, I think it's key, because some participants have brought this topic up.
So a couple of things. I think there is uh, um, an unrealistic expectation back home by the community back home that somehow money is easily available in Canada, and that students or any new immigrant can find easy job, which is not true. And that's, I think, where the disconnect happens. When young people may be saying to their parents that, look, it's very difficult for me to find a job and I can only work X number of hours, that's another problem.
Yes, that's the,
Like they
we are
can
just allowed to work 20 hours
20 hours,
per
okay.
weekly. Yeah.
Yeah. So if they are only allowed to work 20 hours, and that's only barely enough for them to save money for their next semester's tuition and little bit of rent. So where would the money come from to send back home? And I do understand the parents, and that's why I think one of the things we have decided to do pre-arrival webinars, so that the parents can sit with their children who want to come to Canada to understand that it is very difficult for a student to work full time, send money back home, be good at the studies, pass, because their work permits or their education permit, however the system is, and Kamal can talk more about that, it's very difficult and very onerous. And I think that those are some of the ways we are trying to educate the parents back home, that look, you have an unrealistic expectation from your child. It's not possible to do this, otherwise they will get into there are bad elements in Canada who are looking for these kind of students, and they will get them involved in the wrong things. So that is something that I would like to kind of say that when these pre-arrival webinars will be done by PCHS, that let your parents know that they should join to participate in here as well.
Yes. And
Kamal, you
I
have more
want to share,
experience on
yes,
this.
I have to share one more important thing. And honestly, back into India, I think they educate their girls. They just done their high school, go through the international language testing system. And after that, parents don't have money to send that girl to Canada, right? What option they have? Just married with the rich guy, right? Married with a rich guy. They will spend money on their girl and she will go to Canada. And after that, she has like responsibility to sponsor their boy to come to Canada. And I think these things, because at the age of 18, 19, I understand we haven't seen a lot of things. We haven't have any experience back home. And honestly, so when we came here, we face different problems. We interact with different peoples who have different point of views and everything. So from that point, we understand how to interact with the people, how to understand their perspective, and how to deal with them. So at that point, we are like have enough potential to like identify how should we spend time with the people, how we should know about different people, right? And I think that's the point we don't have enough maturity level, honestly. So they just go to the different resources and find different ways to get money, right? So parents should understand we have just 20 hours per week, sorry, not bi-weekly, I think 40 hours bi-weekly. We can work only 20 hours per week. And we can like earn enough money to send back home,
Right.
right? We have to pay our bill, we have to do groceries,
Right.
we have rent, we can send them money. So they have to understand us. And I think I'm lucky. My parents, they understand that. And we can get our fees within 4 months, right? We can pay our fee. And all they have a difference between the domestic and the international student fee structure. That I would like you to share your point of view in here, because they have a lot of difference between the domestic student fee structure and international student fee structure.
Yeah, I think
And
it's, go ahead, Uncle.
so I just wanted to say that that is where the frustration for me comes in. And
Yes,
even
for me as well.
yesterday, even yesterday, we were talking about this in our immigration meeting. And one of the suggestions I was that, look, the educational institutions are making so much profit of international students. It's an exorbitant amount that international students are paying. There has to be some obligation of these education institutions to take care of the students. It should be their responsibility to make sure that they find housing for them. It shouldn't be the international students' job to find housing. If someone is bringing them to study at their educational institutions, it's not good enough to just take their money and say, okay, this is where the phone numbers are, go look for housing and you negotiate, because these kids, young people don't even know how to negotiate to a landlord. And there are good landlords, but there are also so many bad landlords who are taking advantage of these students. And I think that's where we have to kind of step up and educate these young people that if you have problem, please call Punjabi Community Health Services and just say you are an international student and you are having difficulty with this landlord, or you are having difficulty at the school, whether it doesn't matter which college it is, whether it is Sheridan, Humber, or a university. Call us and we will do the advocacy on your behalf. If you are being discriminated in terms of your academic marks, or if you have submitted and the prof says, no, I never received it on time, I'm going to give a 0, let us know. We will lobby on your behalf. We will write to the dean of the college and say, look, we are supporting this student. We believe this is true. We want you to investigate it further. And this happened at the college one time, where we had to strongly, because the student would have to pay another couple of $1,000 for one semester just to complete the course, because the prof said, no, I didn't receive your assignment on time. And we said, and she had told me, she had shown me, look, I have sent this. This is the screenshot I have. And we took it and we fought it all the way up, and then she was given the marks. Imagine if she had to, if nobody was listening to her. She went to the career counseling, she went to her counselor, she went to the other professors. Everybody gave her some suggestions, but ultimately I had to step in and kind of forcefully say, look, we're going to take you to task if you don't pass this student. Because are you saying that you're making money off her? It's not an easy thing to come up with a couple of $1,000 just to complete one course for one semester. And so that's where the problem comes for youngsters. So they don't know. So please call Punjabi Community Health Services. Our numbers are listed on website, or you can have an info@pchsforyou.com. Send us an email. We will support you and stand beside you.
Yeah, and please attend the pre-arrival orientations. That's very important. You should know the reality before you land Canada.
And I think it's important to talk about, certain examples. So I know, I'm not going to name the college, but there's a college that took in a huge influx of international students. And we talked about this before, that they had students, let's say, that wanted to go into the sciences, and told them, no, you know what? Why don't you enroll in ECE, or early childhood education, because they needed to fill that course. Well, what they did was, there was such an influx of students coming that there was not enough placement in the area. So a lot of the students, the school set them up to fail. And the school set up them to fail because they wanted money from them. Like you were saying, Uncle, the educational institutions are taking such advantage of these students. So in order to come here, you need $16,000 Canadian, roughly, in a GIC in order to get accepted. So that $16,000 is to pay for your tuition and basic cost. But if you are going like Kamal, like you went to school in Peterborough, but if there's not enough housing, students are traveling from Peterborough to Brampton. That's almost 2, right? That's almost 2 hours.
Because they don't have much opportunities as compared to Brampton and Toronto, Scarborough areas. They don't have much opportunities, because that's just a small city.
It is. So then you're getting taken advantage of at the school system. And Uncle, this is great that you were an advocate for these students, for this particular student, because a lot of them don't know their rights and end up having to work under the table in really crappy working conditions, where they just need to pay this bill because they need to graduate. They need to make sure that they have enough points for PR. Like it's an ongoing cycle for them. But if organizations like PCHS, Punjabi Chamber of Commerce, has helped with this. So we had Salco on last week, right? So there are community resources that are for free for these students, right? So that's important to know. And I think there's this idea, and I'm going to say this in Punjabi, because because the first person that they interacted with was an agent in India who made these false promises and said, don't do this, don't do this. And when they get here, everything that they were promised or told is not true. So there are organizations like PCHS and other organizations that we are not asking for anything. It's our job and to help you and to provide you with services. So the next part of the question, Uncle, and we've touched a little bit about this, but what are some resources that are available for the students that they're unaware of?
I think the biggest one is getting a mindset to seek help and professional help. And so there are two types of help in the community. One are called informal networks. Informal means you can talk to your professor, you can talk to your student friend, you can talk to somebody who has been in Canada for a long time. So these are informal kind of support networks. But then there is in Canada the formal networks, which are agencies that are there to provide help to you. And these are mental health organizations, addictions organizations. These are labor organizations like labor action centers. If you go there and you say, well, this employer is giving me $5, they will guide you. What are your rights? That the employer cannot pay you $5. So if you are only stuck within the informal network, chances are you will not get the right type of help and your problems may not be resolved. So from informal network, we have to move to the formal network. And formal network in India is very rare, but here in Canada, it is the way that this society has been set up. So we have organizations, we have many different organizations. We have mental health organizations, addictions, labor, and we have job search organizations, like you name it, and there are organizations. So we need to go to these organizations and we need to seek professional help. The other thing that I want to let everybody know is in Canada, it's a very legalistic country. What it means is that there are certain do's and there are certain don'ts. One of the things that you have to remember is that if you in Canada, if you co-sign a loan, if somebody is taking a car loan and you as a friend co-sign on that car loan, and that friend of yours doesn't pay car loan, you will end up paying for it because you have co-signed. So before you do help out others, you have to know what your rights and obligations are. Because the moment you put your signature somewhere, you are held responsible in Canada. So please, before you do, and I'm not saying you don't help your friends out, by all means you have to, but make sure you understand your legal obligations, that the bank will hold you responsible if you do this, right? So sometimes students don't know this. They just know blindly just because their friend chases a sign, and then all of a sudden the friend cannot pay for whatever reason, becomes sick or can't pay, and now the bank says, okay, you have to pay now. And then all kind of differences come up. So that's kind of suggestion. And then the also is, please don't, when you talk to the community members who are telling you, oh, I have a job for you and it will pay you $1,000 a week, do not accept those kind of jobs, because those are where they rope you in to sell drugs or do other things which are not so nice. So be careful when somebody is enticing you with this, and this one student that we are working with, they roped him in by saying that we will give you a free car. You don't have to pay for your food and your rent. All you have to do is drive this car and leave the car there and call an Uber and come back. That's all your job is. And every week you will get $2,000 to do this. He didn't know any better, so he drives there, and now one day the police comes and arrests him. Now he says, I didn't even know. I work for these guys, and the police go there and there is nobody there. So now he is stuck with drug dealing offense. It's a criminal offense. If convicted, he's going to be deported back to India. Now we are having lawyers and we are trying to defend him, that this is an innocent guy, didn't know about Canada, had no idea what this whole thing is. Please, so we are trying to negotiate with the crown, and then if some deal can be made so that he doesn't have a criminal conviction, then he can stay. Otherwise, he's going to be deported. So when these kind of individuals give you this high paying easy job, please be careful when these kind of things happen, because that's where they rope ordinary students who are new to Canada, who don't know Canada that much, and that's where these individuals try to take advantage of these young people as also.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of scams that are taking place. So Kamal, I have two questions for you. So the first question, I know we talked a little bit about this, but I think it's very interesting. You know, Uncle had talked a little bit about, you know, people networking in India versus here. And I found it really fascinating how strong the network is with international students. So could you give me a few examples as a student, you know, knowing that you didn't have resources at Fleming College, how you networked with each other, and how did you find out where to get help from? So let's, like, this is almost, you know, a student gets here, gets no help from their college. If you can kind of walk us through your experience, what you did in order to get your network and figure out the system.
So when I was in Fleming College, so we faced the problem of accommodations, because suddenly a lot of students just came to Fleming College. So I talked to the, I think it's the CEO of the college. So she arranged the model, a hotel for 15 days for the students, and we have 15 days to find the accommodation. And all around, I think 60 students were in the model. So we connect with them, we find the resources, and we just sit with them and discuss about how we can find the accommodations. And at that point, I have my relatives, one of my cousin, he was in Fleming College already, so he helped me a lot. And he was elected in 2019 as a president of Punjabi International Student Chamber, and he helped me a lot. And that's why we just seek help from other international students. Nobody else was there to help us because we don't have our community there. We had just 1 or 2% Indian community in Peterborough. So we just seek help from other international students, basically.
Right. And, you know, I think it's important, you know, anybody immigrating, students or not, you know, when you look at where to go for grocery shopping, right? Something as simple as grocery shopping. Metro might be just down the street, but you're going to be spending almost double the amount on food shopping at Metro than you would be at No Frills, right? So these simple tips, I think, would be really helpful for students where, you know, especially in towns like Peterborough, North Bay, because the students are everywhere, not just in like Toronto, Brampton, etc. Right? I think it's important to talk about, you know, the community sticks with each other. There's Indian grocery stores in the bigger cities, but when you're looking
we don't have Indian grocery stores in these small cities like Peterborough. We just have No Frills, Walmart, Freshcos.
Yes, and you know, Kamal, there's a student. She was a placement student with PCHS that I had the pleasure of meeting. She had also mentioned, and she went to school in Peterborough, that she said that the conditions, the housing conditions were so terrible that there is about, and this is the norm now, that there's about 20 students living in a house. But there are some students that couldn't, there was no place for them to sleep, so they would sleep at the Tim Hortons. Right? And this breaks my heart knowing that, you know, students are coming here, want to study, want to do all these things. If there's no place for them to sleep.
And one more point, they don't know about their rights. So actually, when something happens, any misunderstanding between the landlord and landlord, just, okay, you just get out.
Yes.
You have 1 day, you have 2 days, just get out and find another new place.
Which is sad. And then the student ended up.
Because they don't know about their rights, right? And most of the people, they have illegal basements here and people don't know about it. And mostly students don't know about their rights.
That's right. And I think even, you know, certain cities now are taking advantage of the students where they're increasing the prices of basements
Yeah.
because they know there's a demand with the students. So it's you know, there, you can't win either way. You have to spend X amount of money, but you need a roof over your head. So
Anu, there's
Hanji?
one thing I just wanted to give these young people a tip. Because Kamal just spoke about that they don't know their rights.
Yeah.
One of the things what I'm recommending is that every time there is a dispute or a disagreement, whether it's a disagreement with your teacher, with your lecturer, professor, whether it's a disagreement with a landlord, whether it's a disagreement with an employer, I would like you to suggest that please take a piece of paper, put a date on that piece of paper, put the name of the person who you are speaking to. So let's say that it's a landlord. On a date and the time and the name of the landlord that you were discussing. And then you start talking that I had requested this landlord that there is no hot water coming. And the landlord said, it's none of my business. You put there that this is what he said, that it's none of my business. And then you said that we were pleading with him that please, we can't take a bath because the water is cold. Can you please fix it? He says, no, get out if you don't want to get this done.
Yes.
Now you have a little legal document that can be submitted in front of the landlord tribunal, landlord and tenant tribunal. Now you have a legal remedy, because now you can say on this date, your honor, I said this to this person and he told me to get out. Rather than fixing, he told me to get out. Now the landlord and the tenant tribunal adjudicator will take the landlord to task, because he will say, on this date, did you meet with this young person? So he can't say no, because this is a legal document, right? So he will say, yes, I met. So why did you refuse to fix the hot water? Can you please explain? And so he can't say that, he may deny that I had never said to him to leave, because he knows that in Canada, you cannot evict a person in winter. You cannot shut down their heat and cold, because that's when the law dictates that they will take you severely to task. So my recommendation is, doesn't matter where you go, please make sure you put the date, the timing, the name of the person you are talking, and you put your ask very clearly. I am suggesting, sir, please reconsider this, as I have submitted this assignment on time. I am requesting that the heat is not proper in the home. Please turn on the heat. So everything you do, please have a paper and pencil and the date and the timing and the name of the person you're talking. Even if you're interacting with police or with the security or with anyone, just take out your paper and pencil and start, and you will see that the person will start treating you really nicely, because they know you know your rights about this legal writing business.
Well said. And this is one of the great tips that we can share collectively to these students. And this leads into the good segue into the final question. If both of you, so Uncle, you've given this tip, but if you can give some advice and one tip, we have about 5 minutes, and then I have to do some closing remarks. But if you can share some tips and a piece of advice to the students that are thinking of immigrating here, as well as their parents if they're watching.
So one of the things is that please concentrate on your studies, because once you complete your study, yes, it's a 2 years, most likely it's a 2-year kind of diploma course, and some of you might be in university, which is a 4-year degree. But if you're completing, please concentrate on your studies and complete it. Don't drop it in between, because that will create enormous amount of problems to go back into the studying mode there. That's one. Second, make sure you take time, you do time management. You will not get 25 hours in a day. You will only have 24 hours, but how do you manage those 24 hours will be your task. The third tip is make sure that you get enough sleep. That's where mental health problems originate from. In our society, we are inundated with constant bombardments of texts, WhatsApp messages, Facebooks, assignments, and all those things, and we only have so much time. So please make sure that you put some time management in place so that you can relax a little bit, and then you can kind of know excel in your studies and in all the other things. Please take time out, sit back, relax a little bit, and also take time out that yes, you have completed 1 year or you have completed 3 semesters and that you have only one more semester to go. Enjoy that yes, you have been able to do. And if you run into problems, please seek professional help. We are here to guide you. We are here to put you in the right direction as to how you can solve that problem. Seek professional help, because sometimes that help is all you need to sort out a problem. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you. Kamal, do you have tips or a piece of advice that you can give to the students and their parents?
Yes, so we're in a problem, no need to worry. Just know your rights. As Uncle said, Canada is a legal country. We have all legal documentation everywhere. Don't need to be hesitate, seek professional help, know about your rights. When you know about your rights and then you have everything, you can do anything.
Perfect. Thank you. And it's sad to know that this is our final webinar that we put together with on the international student journey. As Sukhdeep ji had mentioned, that this is something that we are going to put together in a booklet form. But I feel collectively, the participants that watched and even our panelists, this might be something that we can continue in some shape or format in the new year. And I think it's important,
Absolutely.
that the students know that there's resources, and we want to prevent, the students that are coming, not just here in Canada, but worldwide, to help prevent mental health, prevent addictions and the isolation and depression and everything that's associated once they come to a new country. So, I wanted to put that out there, that this is just the beginning. But we have potentially, we can put something together to continue this. And Uncle, you had mentioned, that PCHS is putting something together for pre-arrival so that the parents and the students will know.
Sure, absolutely.
So, yeah, and now I'm just gonna do some closing remarks. So we need leadership and involvement from a broad base of community leaders. Punjabi Chamber of Commerce will thrive through strong leadership, dedication, and broad collaboration. Success of each member strengthens our community as a whole, and the opportunity to succeed as individuals and as a community relies on our volunteer leaders and the engagement of our members. I'm really honored to be a part of the Punjabi Chamber of Commerce, and it would be great for others to become a part of the chapters within their community and to promote their businesses. And I would like to say that Punjabi Chamber of Commerce has a very unique idea where they partner with a nonprofit within their different chapters, which is how I got involved, and it's their way of giving back. So, there's a lot of respect that I give to organizations like Punjabi Chamber of Commerce, because they believe in the importance of giving back, especially to nonprofits that are helping out the community. So we usually have some questions, but the group was pretty quiet today. But if there are any questions later on, we have a great team that will be able to assist. So Sukhdeep ji, I'm gonna leave it up to you if you've got anything to say.
Yeah, any questions, please, if we have, before we finally wind it off. Let me thank Mr. Baldev Mottaji, sir. Thank you so much for being here today as a panelist. Without you all, it wouldn't have been possible. The PCHS, they played a very important role today. And as I iterated right at the beginning also, that we wouldn't leave it here only. It will be well documented, and so that, we take a proactive approach towards all the issues which we have discussed so far in all the 3 series. I'm very grateful to Kamalpreet Kaur also for being, panelist, and she has been working very hard for this throughout. And a great thank to you, Ms. Anupama, for such a support. And without you, the things wouldn't have been possible. I'm grateful to my PCC professional team as well, Jinia and Vanita, for being with us. They have been working in the background towards this wonderful show. And above all, Mr. Gurpreet Pasricha ji. He has always been a guiding force for all of us to conduct such wonderful and informative webinars. Thank you so much.
Sukhdeep, there is one question in the chat box. It says, are these problems unique to Canada? No, these are not unique to Canada. In fact, I am going to be presenting live tonight at 5 o'clock, a parenting session in Australia. So these kind of challenges are also faced by international students in Australia. I have not done a webinar in New Zealand, but the contacts in Australia were saying that the students in Australia were facing the similar problems that our students are facing in Canada. In fact, in Europe, our students are facing the similar problems there as well. So no, the problems are not unique to Canada. It is everywhere. There is a restriction of work. There is pressure on the students to perform. They are in a new country and adjustment takes a lot longer. But imagine they come maybe 2 or 3 weeks before their university begins or college begins, and they only have 2-3 weeks to find a place to stay, get acculturated, get knowledge. And imagine if you are arriving in January in middle of snow, imagine how difficult it is to walk and go and take a bus, and you're freezing. You must be wondering, oh my God, which country did I come to? So it's challenging everywhere. It's not unique to Canada.
Yes, and we on PCHS Media, we actually had a segment around international students. Kamal was one of our speakers on there. We got a phone call from someone from the UK who was an international student herself. So the social media, IPTV, we have ways to connect with people all over. Sorry, there's one more question.
Yeah,
I don't know if so Kamal, this is for you. Why did you choose to study in Canada and not any other country?
So basically, I have my relatives in Canada, not in any other country. I have my cousins here, so I chose Canada.
Okay, perfect. That's great. Okay, so I think that's it on from our end. Thank you, Baldev Uncle. Thank you, Kamal. Thank you, Sukhdeep and the team.
Thank you.
Okay, have a good day, night.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye, Anu.
Bye.